I knew I wanted to talk about the Oscars 2025 on this channel, but in reviewing my notes, I found myself a little lost on deciding what my next topic was going to be in previewing this year's ceremony. And one thing that I noticed really quickly was I had all these like for-year consideration movies, like movies to kind of keep an eye out in the next few months as they start releasing. And I started noticing some titles, and I noticed this interesting trend. Tell me if you notice it as well. I have a Pixar movie in Inside Out 2. I have Moana 2. I have Transformers 1, Wallace and Gromit, Kung Fu Panda 4, Despicable Me 4, the Garfield movie, a Looney Tunes movie, Spongebob. All these movies of really famous characters and IP all competing in a category for the Academy Awards for Best Animated Picture. And now, obviously, some of these films that I just discussed are not going to get nominations. However, the one thing that I did find interesting about this is the one category where you can just have such a variety in type of projects. You have a high level of talent involved with the vocal performances of this movie. And most importantly, this is probably the category, and I was thinking about it today, and I'm like, wow, I've never thought of that. This is probably the category, year in, year out, that the most amount of people have seen the movies correlating with them. Because if you think about it, like Best Picture, like there's always a few of these movies that really no one hears or talks about. This category in Best Animated Picture, everyone really does know these movies. Obviously, maybe some of them, if you're not parents, you're not really watching them. But these usually end up being some of the highest grossing films in Hollywood each year. And specifically this year, I think that trend is going to continue. So I have what looks like, how many movies? I think I have about 16 movies that I wanted to talk about today, all competing in the Best Animated Picture race. And I'm just going to list off the movies right now so we kind of know the bunch that we're picking from. I got The Wild Robot. I got Inside Out 2. I got The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. I have Moana 2, I have Transformers 1, I have Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl, I have Kung Fu Panda 4, Despicable Me 4, the Garfield movie, Piece by Piece, Orion in the Dark, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, and Spellbound. Those are all the titles that we're going to be talking about. And right now you're probably saying, Ben, there's no way some of these movies are going to be competing in honesty. You are completely correct, and I just threw down a list of everyone that I think at the very least someone is going to bring up the idea of what if we do that and what if we campaign? And for a lot of them, not reality. But the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because this race is going to shape up to be really a serious contender. And obviously, we just know Inside Out 2 released to $155 million domestically, to great reviews. This movie's going to be a true juggernaut, and I think probably will gross the $1 billion mark in a summer thus far that has been pretty lackluster for Hollywood. I think there's a pretty safe belief that Inside Out 2 is the front runner for this category in Best Animated Picture. It may go on to win, but at the very least, it's not missing the nomination this year. So Inside Out 2 is one that we're definitely going to be talking about today. But I just broke up these categories in a few. Tell me if you agree with where I have some of these movies placed, if you agree with these categories. If I need a few more categories, suggest them in the comments below, and I will legitimately think about adding them onto my channel and talking about movies that way. So please, give me all your suggestions. But the categories I have are listed as such: not happening, probably not happening, 50-50, and my 5. And not a bunch of created names. So again, if you have any ideas, throw them at me. I am all ears. And so let's just talk about this first category, not happening. There are 5 movies that I threw on the not happening list. At this moment, we have seen 2 of them. One of them's about to release, and then I think the other 2 release in August and September. And I rank these. I did do kind of a ranking in my head. So at the bottom of this list of not happening, and I think it's probably the one that when I said it, everyone's like, that's not actually happening. I don't even know if it qualifies to be in this race, because I think it might be considered a TV movie, but it is Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. Here's why this is not happening, and it should be obvious. None of the SpongeBob movies have ever been nominated for Best Animated Picture. If the first one, which is a legitimate classic, cannot get on, there's no way this Paramount, I believe it might be a Paramount Plus exclusive, is getting on. That's why it's at the very bottom of my list. But as a SpongeBob fan, I just wanted to throw it in and talk about this movie for a sec, which is probably going to be bad. The second from the bottom is, and I have it the second at the bottom because I've seen this movie, so I feel more comfortable saying that it's not going to be high. It's the Garfield movie, which I did see. I did like more than other people did. I thought the movie was fine enough. I thought it was charming. This movie is also not getting nominated for Oscars. If this had been like this huge juggernaut, kind of like what we're seeing with Inside Out 2, I think there's a chance. But even like Chris Pratt had an animated movie that came out last year in Super Mario Bros. Now that thinking about it, he's done quite a few vocal performances. The Lego Movie 2, Super Mario Bros. And now Garfield. And none of them have gone nominated. So I don't know what that bias is against Chris Pratt in animated movies, because some of them are actually legitimately great. So that's a weird thing to notice. But yeah, Garfield movie is just not going to get in there. It's not popular enough. It didn't have enough critical support. It's doing well financially, but it's not anything that the Academy is going to take note of it. Next on that list, and maybe people are going to be like, Ben, that's too low. But I have a really good reasoning for having it third on this list of not happening. Third from the bottom, I should say. It is Despicable Me 4. And the reason I have it on, despite the fact that this movie is going to make a lot of money, the fact that this is a long-running series, and that's the key. It is a long-running series, so we have data points to suggest why this is not getting nominated. This blew my mind right here. Get ready for this factoid. Despicable Me, the last time a movie in this franchise was nominated was 2013 with Despicable Me 2, the second movie in this entire franchise. So since then, we've had Minions, we've had Despicable Me 3, we've had Minions 2, and now we're about to have Despicable Me 4. 4 movies in a row, all of them pretty big juggernauts, and none of them got nominated for Academy Awards. That's why Despicable Me 4, I feel pretty safe in writing off at this moment. 2013, we're now at an 11-year history. I think that streak is going to continue, and I just don't see the Academy going for the 8th installment, 5th, 6th? I have no clue how many installments now are in the Despicable Me franchise, but it's not getting it, so that's why it's on this list. Not happening also is another movie that I put there for similar reasons. It is Kung Fu Panda 4, a movie that I thought was fine. I thought it was semi-funny. It wasn't as good as some of the other installments in this series, but I still had a fun time watching this movie, even though you could definitely feel the budgetary restraints put on this movie. Reason Kung Fu Panda 4 isn't getting nominated is because Kung Fu Panda 3 didn't get nominated in 2016. 2016, a semi-more competitive year for the Best Animated Picture, but I just think that same logic, if you're looking at Despicable Me 4 not getting an Oscar nomination, or Despicable Me, I should say, not getting an Oscar nomination since 2013, Kung Fu Panda, the series, hasn't gotten an Oscar nomination since 2011 for Kung Fu Panda 2. And like I said, honestly, this movie's just fine. And I think there's some tougher competition. Maybe here's the one that people are going to disagree with on the list of not happening. And they're like, Ben, you should probably put that in probably not happening, but we can't actually say this isn't happening right now. I put Transformers 1 to round off this not happening list. Reason I did it is because I think a lot of people are already kind of noting the similarities that this movie seems to have with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the animated one that came out last year. And I think people are already noting the similarities. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was a legitimately fun, good movie, did not get this nomination. And that's why I'm like a little dubious of this Transformers 1 movie, which tells the untold origin of Prime and Megatron, who were once friends, bonded like brothers. This is essentially, it sounds like Wicked. That sounds quite literally like Wicked, but with Transformers. It has a cast of Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, John Hamm. Very big A-list cast. I just don't really see, like I said, if Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was as good as it was last year, didn't get the nomination, in this movie that doesn't look quite as clever, doesn't look quite as fun, doesn't have that same style that I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles didn't get the nomination last year. And again, different mix of nominees last year. But to be honest, last year's nominees were a little bit on the weaker side, some less star power in there. I just don't see Transformers 1 getting this unless this movie just blows past all expectations. The next one I have on this list is probably not happening. I have 2 movies on this list. I have The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. And I should just note, this film premiered a few days ago to a very select number of people. And the reviews of it seemingly were pretty positive on this Looney Tunes movie. So I am hopeful that this movie can be funny. I just don't really see the Academy going for this movie. I don't really see it. I don't know why else then, besides the fact that I know Looney Tunes has a pretty good history with the Academy themselves. So maybe that could work in its favor. But besides that, the style of animation didn't really look like something the Academy goes for. It's not like a classic Looney Tunes animated movie in the sense of how it looks, how it feels. So some of the jokes in the trailer are fairly more juvenile. I don't know. I just didn't vibe with this movie right away with the trailer, and I just don't think the Academy is going to give it that much attention. The next on this list is an interesting one because it comes from, I believe, Skydance Entertainment, and it is produced by kind of a social pariah. And I don't know how involved he is on this movie, but I do know his name is attached in some ways. It is John Lasseter, and it is the movie Spellbound. John Lasseter had his comeback movie 2 years ago with a movie called Luck, which premiered to Apple TV. Luck was really bad. This movie is now coming out to Netflix. This stars Rachel Zegler, Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem, John Lithgow, Nathan Lane are all in this movie. And Spellbound follows the adventure of Eileen, the tenacious princess who must go on a daring quest to save her family and kingdom after a mysterious spell transforms her parents into monsters. I think one thing that people rightfully noticed in their reviews of Luck was this was essentially Lasseter trying to make a Pixar film again after being ousted from the company. And Spellbound looks like, from everything that I'm seeing, it looks like this company trying to make a Disney princess movie. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I just don't really see this movie going over particularly well. And if I'm going by track record, Skydance / Lasseter's last movie was extremely bad. So I'm just not giving him the benefit of the doubt right now. So those are my 2 films in the probably not happening category, which leaves us with 7 titles. And I have 2 titles in the 50-50. I have specifically the lower of the 2 because I think this is the case of higher risk, higher reward. But if it goes wrong, then it probably isn't going to get much attention. It is a Lego animated movie called Piece by Piece, which is the story of Pharrell Williams, the singer, and it follows his life and musical career and expressing his artistry and his faith by means of Lego bricks. This is essentially a documentary. It sounds like it's a little bit of a biopic movie. It sounds like it's not fully documentary in the sense that there is the ongoing story and some of it might not all be told in the documentary fashion. But it does sound like this is kind of what it reminds me a lot of. This, there was a movie a few years ago called Flea that was nominated. It was a 2021 movie that was nominated for the 2022 Oscars. Piece by Piece kind of feels like it could do the same. It feels like it could be a documentary play and it could also be an animated feature play. This includes vocal talents of Pharrell, Gwen Stefani, Kendrick Lamar, Timberlake, Busta Rhymes, Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg. If this is pulled off well, I could see being embraced, especially because I know the Lego movies don't have good track record with the Academy. I don't think a single Lego movie has been nominated, which is shocking because Lego Movie deserved the win in 2014. But this is more of, I guess if you want to be just cynical about it, this is a more artistic, quote unquote, view of Legos and what they're trying to achieve in telling this story. And it's a vision brought to life by Pharrell Williams. I don't know if this movie is going to be good. This could be a complete disaster. I don't know what story Pharrell Williams has to tell. Maybe I'll be shocked and watch this movie and just think it's wonderful. Right now, I'm a little skeptical of it, but it's definitely enough of an intrigue and a risk that I'm keeping my eyes on it. I believe this movie comes out in September. And the one that I have at number 6, and I was really debating, should it be number 5? Should it be in this? Should it not? I saw the trailer and it has this anime style, which I'm like, maybe the Academy won't go for it, but they also went for the Lord of the Rings movies, and the Hobbits got their fair share of nominations. Is the Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim, going to get this top 5 spot? At this moment, I said the genre bias is going to take people out of the Lord of the Rings movies, and that's why I have it at number 6, kind of fighting its way in. And I'll explain kind of my logic of this in a little bit. But I think that's where this Lord of the Rings movie should exist, because it kind of feels like, and not to be crass about this and not to put down these movies, but it kind of feels like when DC releases like Batman Arkham movie, or like they release the Injustice movie, or they release Dark Knight Returns. And some of those movies are really good. In fact, some of them are actually great. But it doesn't feel necessarily of the same level of prestige. And that's where I'm a little worried about this Lord of the Rings movie. Now, this movie definitely seems to have a much bigger budget. They have much higher actors. They have Brian Cox in the lead role. They're clearly trying to do something special with this movie. So I think this will get certainly more of a push. It's, will that translate into people paying attention to this movie? Or is it just going to be something for the Lord of the Rings heads? That's why I'm a little skeptical at this movie, and that's why I have it at number 6. If this movie's great and it really does elevate and it becomes something special, then I could easily see this knocking off my 5 and my 4, because I think my 5 and 4 might be a little weak. Which brings us to my top 5. The 5 that at this moment I believe are the sure things. And let's just get the obvious one out of the way. We all know what number 1 is because of this list. There's been 2 movies that have premiered, and one of them is going to be nominated. It has the studio behind it that's been successful with it. Inside Out 2 is certainly in the passenger seat right now. Or I should say it's not even in the passenger seat. It's driving the car right now, and it is certainly going to get nominated. If Inside Out 2 doesn't get nominated, I think we would all be shocked, and something really weird has happened, which brings us to what are the other 4? So if you have Inside Out 2, number 1, this box office sensation brought by Pixar with the Disney studio backing it, beloved sequel, all this just in its favor. What are the other 4? So at number 5, I decided, and this one was the one where I'm like, am I being a little too risky with this? And ultimately I decided, let's just go the favorite company here. Moana 2, brought to you by Disney. The first one got nominated. This one is going to, I think, at first struggle, and this is why I had some questions about putting it on this list, is because Moana 2 was originally, from my understanding, supposed to be kind of like a Disney Plus TV show, or like straight to Disney Plus movie. And then they decided to give it a more of a bigger budget. They got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson back, and they're releasing into theaters. Is that stink / like kind of Disney TV version of it going to come true? And people watching, they're like, "Ooh, this does feel like something that was just going to be released straight to Disney Plus and isn't of any real significance in theaters." If that's the case, then I could see Moana 2 easily getting bumped. But this is a beloved sequel. People love the first Moana film. If this thing becomes a hit, I could easily see this being at the top 5. And that's why it's in my top 5, but at that spot where I'm a little worried about it. Number 4 is a movie that I actually need to see. I need to catch up on my homework. It came out to Netflix earlier this year from a beloved director in Kaufman. It is Orion in the Dark. A boy with an active imagination faces his fears on an unforgettable journey with his new friend, a giant creature named Dark. And popular director, well reviewed by critics, doesn't seem to be widely seen. And I mean, it's probably widely seen because it's on Netflix and it's a animated movie that has an appeal to kids. It kind of feels like it could be in this place of the same movie that came out a few years ago, Wendell and Wild, which was Henry Selick. Like maybe this is where it falls into. This movie seems to be slightly more better reviewed than Wendell and Wild. So that's why I have a little bit more faith into this. This just kind of feels like if they're rounding out the top 5, Netflix has been really good about budgeting, pushing their FYC campaigns to usually get an animated film in there. This just feels like a case where they could get the 5th spot with Orion in the Dark. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind right now. And that's why I have it at number 4. It's kind of just a safe holder, I guess you will say. Number 3, it's this trailer that I really don't know anything about the movie. I forgot to write down the synopsis in my notes here, but it is The Wild Robot, which I've seen this trailer a few times. You know what? We're going to do something. We're doing it live, and I'm going to type in The Wild Robot so I can give you guys a better representation of this movie. I think it's actually based on a series, comes from Chris Sanders. Universal is the studio releasing it. DreamWorks Animation. The epic adventure follows the journey of a robot, Rosm Unit 7134, Roz for short, that is shipwrecked on an uninhabited island and must learn to adapt to the harsh surroundings, gradually building relationships with the animals on the island and becoming the adopted parent of an orphan gosling. Did this kind of remind me of The Iron Giant? Sure, this movie looks pretty beautiful. Has a really good cast, including Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, Catherine O'Hara, Bill Nye, Stephanie Sue, Mark Hamill, Ving Rhames. Like, this just seems like a lot working in its favor. DreamWorks Animation, as usually, a pretty reliable and famous name with the Spielberg backing behind it. I just kind of am vibing with what I've seen of this trailer, and I think it might have the goods to get across the finish line and maybe really just become something really special. The trailer, I think, is really beautiful, and I'm curious to see this movie. That's why I'm kind of just feeling safe about my bet of The Wild Robot. Number 2 is a movie I'm slightly worried about. And the only reason I'm slightly worried about it is because I know that this movie is going to premiere to BBC and Netflix basically on the same day, December 25th. So that's a little late in the game. So I'm worried about that. And I'm also worried if that means if this is almost more of a TV movie and not a full-length movie, if you will. But I have Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Fowl on this list at number 2. And I could get screwed with this pick if this is essentially just a TV movie and it's 40 minutes and it's not really going to qualify for the Academy Awards, even if it's released by Netflix as a movie. That's where I'm a little worried about this. Otherwise, I feel good about this. Return of Wallace and Gromit, their last real picture, got one Best Animated Picture with The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So much work goes into making these movies. Now, obviously, they had Chicken Run 2 last year, which just wasn't good. So I'm hoping that if this movie is good and it has that actual Wallace and Gromit spirit and love, that maybe this movie could be great, and that's why I have it so high. Again, I could get completely screwed because we just don't know enough about this movie. So maybe in a few weeks, we'll find out this movie isn't really even eligible and isn't competing in that type of way. Right now, I'm just putting the bet on this name of, I believe the company's Aardman, and I'm just putting the love of Wallace and Gromit. I personally love these guys, so that's why I have it at number 2, which obviously leaves us with our number 1, Inside Out 2. So that's a quick breakdown. So as a kind of just a reminder, some of these movies are going to be coming out soon. We have The Wild Robot in September. We have Moana 2 in November, so that's a little late. I'm pretty sure Transformers 1 is September. We have Despicable Me 4, which will come out in a few weeks. And then, Orion in the Dark, you can see on Netflix now. Inside Out 2, you can see in theaters now. And if you're curious, Saving Bikini Bottom, I'm pretty sure it's August. With that all said, that's kind of where my thoughts are with this category. And if you really think about it, there's some, like I said, these are movies that are going to be seen by people. My guess is, well, obviously we know Inside Out 2 is going to be seen by an audience. Moana 2 is probably going to be seen by an audience. Transformers 1 could do pretty well. Kung Fu Panda 4 already got seen by an audience. Garfield the movie already got seen by an audience. Despicable Me 4 is going to be a huge hit. This Lord of the Rings movie is probably going to be pretty decently sized, especially considering the budget. Looney Tunes, the Looney Tunes are who they are. Like, if this piece-by-piece movie is great, like maybe this is going to be hugely competitive. And if you notice, I don't really have a good grasp on the international films. There's always an international animated movie that sometimes sneaks in there or is at least an FYC consideration. From my list, this is how I view it, and that's how we're going to be talking about it. So this is kind of like a homework assignment. Go out, check out these movies, and keep an eye on them, because I think this is the race that I'm starting to see shape up the most for the Academy Awards, especially compared to other categories where I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is this race going to look like in a few weeks? Because I don't think anyone has a sense of it. And with so many of the movies that not doing so well, I said that weird. I'm just like starting to think like, what are actually going to be the movies? And it's going to open up a lot of room for the other movies to kind of grow and some new big shocking surprises to come out. But best animated picture, it looks like it could be just a slaughterhouse this year, and there's going to be a lot of movies vying for attention. So that's why I wanted to get this one out first. So I guess welcome to Oscar Seasons. My name is Ben Friedman, and if you have any ideas for any videos on Oscars, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. And thank you all for watching this video. I hope you stayed. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe below to my channel. That helps me out. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting really, really close as every day passes. I'm hoping that I might even break it before the summer ends. That's my ultimate hope. I was originally hoping to get this done by December of 2024, so I'm definitely a few months ahead of schedule. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.